Hi everybody, welcome to Mondays with Mark. Today we're going to be discussing two topics that were sent in from one of our customers, Alison Rhodes. She had asked me to talk about GI distress and also gluteal tendinosis and overuse injuries. So we'll start with GI distress. When I started running, one of my first marathons that I ran, I found out very acutely about GI distress because halfway into the race, I needed to use the bathroom very badly, and because I was running and I didn't want to stop, I had an accident in my underpants, and so I had to jump into we were running by a cornfield, and so I ran into the cornfield, took my underpants off, wiped my butt, put my pants back on, jumped back into the race, and fortunately I still managed to finish second. But what that episode taught me was that I needed to be careful with what I ate before, especially the 2 days and the night before, and then also the morning before. And so what I learned over a long period of time was that oatmeal with maybe a little bit of honey and or bread with some peanut butter and jelly or rice with some honey, all things that are not going to upset your gut before you race a marathon, because you do need to eat before you run a marathon. So typically I will get up like 2 or 3 hours before a marathon and then eat the foods that I had just mentioned, the rice, the bread, or the oatmeal, because those go down properly. They have a little bit of protein, they have some carbohydrates, and they're not going to upset my stomach. Do not go for the wonderful curry dinner the night before your marathon. It will come back and haunt you the next day. So as far as GI distress, figure out for yourself, play around with different foods. Everybody responds differently, but play around with it in your training. So before your long run, try foods the night before, and try foods 2 or 3 hours before you actually do your long run, and see what works for you, because we all do respond differently. So play around with it, play around with different foods, and see what works for you. Tendinitis and overuse goes, most runners do not have strong glutes. Running is a quad dominant and a gastrocnemius and soleus dominant activity. So those are the two main muscles that we develop, the quads and the gastrosoleus. So in order to develop your glutes, you have to you have to do heel training, and you have to do squats, you have to do lunges, you have to do step-ups, you have to do bounding. Those are the things that strengthens your glutes, because just running distance doesn't necessarily strengthen your glutes. Gluteal tendinitis tends to be a problem for women runners, because most women runners tend to have an anterior tilted pelvis. So when your pelvis tilts anterior, you get a lot of stress on your glutes. So because your pelvis is anterior tilted, your glutes fire to bring your pelvis back, and so you get an overuse and you get a tendinosis of your gluteal muscles, and that tends to happen mostly in female runners. So in the female runners that I coach, I have them do step-ups, lunges, squats, and then also just really focusing on keeping the pelvis posteriorly rotated. So thanks for the suggestions, and if you guys have anything else, please send them our way and we'll address them. Thank you very much for tuning in.